Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our regularly scheduled Public Safety and Emergency Management Committee. Today is Wednesday, February 19th, 2020, and my name is Alondra Cano. I'm the chair of this committee, council member for the 9th Ward, and I am joined this morning by Council Vice President Andrea Jenkins, Council Member Steve Fletcher, who serves as the vice chair of the committee, and Council Member Lene Palmisano. Together, we are a quorum of the committee and therefore will be able to conduct our business today. We do have a note that Councilmember Ellison is out feeling ill today, and we hope for a speedy recovery for him. We have 7 items on our agenda today, and we will begin as usual with our public hearing. Actually, no, we're not going to start with the public hearing. We are going to begin with our public comment period of receiving and filing public comments from the community regarding public safety issues. So I will go ahead and move that to be our first item of business. And then item number 2 will be the reappointment, a public hearing for the reappointment of our Director of Emergency Management Services. And then we have 4 items on consent, which involve a contract with the University of Minnesota for bomb detection services at TCF Stadium. Then we have a contract with the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension for police investigator participation on the state's Human Trafficking Task Force. We then have a contract with the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension for police crime analyst participation on the state's Human Trafficking Task Force as well. And the final consent item is a training reimbursement from the Minnesota Board of Firefighter Training and Education Program. One item for discussion today, which is item number 7, is the police department's Lights On participation program. And I believe we have a few members from the MPD department and the leadership of that program here today to tell us more about this initiative. Do we have any questions on the consent on the agenda before us? Seeing no questions, all those in favor of adopting and approving this agenda, please say aye. Aye. And we will begin with item number 1, which is the public comment period. So I have 2 people who have signed up, and number 1 is Mr. Chuck Turchick. Mr. Chuck Turchick, if you could please come up, followed by Tabitha Montgomery.
Madam Chair, committee members, for the third time Chuck Turchick, I live in Phillips, for the third time on this issue. As I did on June 9th, 2019, I have provided you today with a copy of Judge Catherine Quaintance's highly unusual opening remarks in her sentencing of Muhammad Noor on June 7th, 2019. When she says, quote, at the end of the second paragraph, the people of Minneapolis need and deserve answers, unquote, she clearly is speaking to Minneapolis city officials. When many of us citizens heard those questions from her, we felt this is a good starting point in figuring out what lessons could be learned from this tragedy. So you ought to at least show some respect to Judge Quaintance and give her an answer. Maybe it'll be none of your business, Judge Quaintance, or maybe you disagree with her that the people of Minneapolis need and deserve answers. Or maybe you have some answers or believe you can get some, either from the police department or from the city attorney's office. Whatever it is, when a district court judge makes such remarkable comments and seems to be directing them toward you, you really ought to show her some respect and say something in response. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Turchick. Ms. Tabitha Montgomery, and anybody else that might want to come after that. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, council members. My name is Tabitha Montgomery, and I serve as the executive director for the Powderhorn Park Neighborhood Association. One area of focus for the association, based on ongoing input from community stakeholders over 4 decades, is the collective interest in seeing and supporting an increase in livability and safety in South Minneapolis and throughout areas of the city that experience a disproportionate number of livability and safety occurrences in comparison to the average and mean. On behalf of the association, I have taken advantage of prior opportunities to provide public comments and other PSEM meetings, budget hearings, and and have appreciated the willingness by everyone on this committee to meet with me and many others in the community regarding this very topic. With these experiences in mind, there is still significant opportunity for council members to help lead better alignment among its members, relevant city departments, and the citizenry as a whole regarding an optimal mix of tools, programs, and services that can help improve livability and safety for everyone. As one step toward improving shared alignment on how best to improve livability and safety, I request this committee create a series of staff directives over time to the appropriate department leadership that helps provide insight into the quantitative and qualitative impact of existing crime prevention resources. With that in mind, I ask this committee to craft and release the first staff directive in this series to Chief Arredondo of the Minneapolis Police Department regarding the city's crime prevention specialist function. I request the directive helps provide insight into MPD's approach to measuring and understanding the CPS function as it relates to the following. How is the execution and attainment of the job duties and responsibilities outlined in the CPS job function currently assessed, and how frequently is this assessment conducted? What evidence-based insight can MPD provide that demonstrates the CPS function prevents crime? Thirdly, how does the department currently identify and respond to areas of opportunity within the CPS function? Over the past 5 years, can MPD outline specific examples of areas of opportunity that were addressed? With the support of this council, material advancements can be made toward ensuring a broader and shared understanding around the impact and efficacy of existing crime prevention resources. I have submitted this statement into the public record.
Thank you so much. Do we have any other members of the public that would like to address the committee today? Seeing none, we shall go ahead and receive and file these public comments regarding public safety issues. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Now our consent agenda, I already read, and includes items 3, 4, and 5, and 6. All those in favor of approving these consent items, please say aye. Aye. And now we shall have the public hearing for the reappointment of the position of the Director of Emergency Management. So our Emergency Management Director, Mr. Barrett Lane, is here in the audience, and you're more than welcome to address the committee if you wish. We do want to invite members of the community and partner organizations who came today to the public hearing to come on up to the microphone here and address the committee at this time. This is the appointment of a 2-year term beginning on January 2nd, 2020. Welcome.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair Cano and committee members, and thank you for the opportunity to publicly affirm the letter that I provided the committee for consideration and contemplation as you consider to reappoint Barrett Lane to the Director of Emergency Management for the City of Minneapolis. My name is Rick Chute. I am the Director of Emergency Management for the City of St. Paul, a colleague, peer, and now friend of Barrett Lane's. And if you had a chance to read my letter yesterday, I just want to make note that I've known Barrett for about 5 years in his emergency management capacity. The bulk of those years while I was an interagency partner with the Minnesota National Guard at the state level, either the Director of Emergency or Director of Operations or the Chief of Staff, working on preparedness activities and planning for special events such as the Super Bowl. And I gained a great respect for Barrett's risk assessment and his ability to truly see what is needed to mitigate risk, to plan for that mitigation, and to execute that mitigation in the service of the citizens of Minneapolis. In the last year, I've gained even greater trust for Barrett in his professional capacity as I've assumed my role as a Director of Emergency Management of the City of St. Paul. His heart is focused on Minneapolis, and he has got great knowledge, skills, and attributes in his profession to care for the preparedness of Minneapolis. And I've relied on it greatly to improve my program across the river. And I've also become a great friend of Barrett's, and know that I can call him with not only professional questions, but with personal questions. And as I said, his heart is in the right place, and he is a great choice to continue to shepherd the emergency management program for Minneapolis well into the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Other folks are welcome to come up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Committee members, my name is Eric Waggy. I'm the Emergency Management Director for Hennepin County. I've known Barrett for probably almost a decade now. always look forward to working with him. Appreciate his, I'll echo Rick's comments, but I appreciate his partnership and his focus on serving the residents of Minneapolis and making the city a safer and more resilient place. I particularly care for his championship of standardization and plans and using the National Incident Management System and the Incident Command System and focusing emergency management plans on that. That helps align through the county level, up through the state level and the national level. Makes it a lot easier when we have to respond to incidents and plan for contingencies and major events like Super Bowls and things like that. I have submitted a letter to the committee, which has a lot more content to it, so I'll just keep my remarks brief, but I do support the continuation of Barrett in this position and look forward to working with him in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Good morning, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Kristy Reilly, and I am the Emergency Programs Manager for the Metropolitan Airports Commission. I have known Barrett since 2002 when I worked here in the city of Minneapolis as a Deputy Director of Emergency Preparedness for the Fire Department, and he was on the City Council. Barrett was a champion for emergency management from day one. He put forward quite an effort around our community emergency response team program when I worked here in Minneapolis, carried that initiative forward with him as he became a contractor with the city in emergency management, and then now as the Director of Emergency Management in the city. I just want to offer a few words of support for the reappointment of Barrett Lane to his position of Director of Emergency Management for the city of Minneapolis. Under Barrett's leadership, the emergency management program in the city of Minneapolis has grown and matured into a comprehensive and accredited program. But more importantly, Barrett has successfully grown the relationship across the emergency management community on the behalf of the city of Minneapolis. The Metropolitan Airports Commission has had the opportunity to partner with the city of Minneapolis on two large events over the past few years, Super Bowl 52 and the 2019 Final Four. The leadership of Barrett on both major events made for easy communication, collaboration, and coordination with all partners, federal, state, and local. And he has also reached out personally to support the MAC in recent events, including the response to Ebola and to the most recent 2019 novel coronavirus. Barrett is an effective emergency management partner, colleague, and a great community advocate for the city of Minneapolis. I ask that you please reappoint him to his role as director. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Mr. Lane, welcome.
Madam Chair, committee members, thank you for the opportunity to address you today and to say a few words. Those words are going to be basically words of thanks. I want to thank the mayor for his confidence in reappointing me to this position and creating the opportunity to be of further service. I want to thank you and the whole council for your ongoing support and partnership of emergency management. Without a solid policy background, these functions just won't happen. I'd like to thank my colleagues, those who are here, those who have provided additional written support, and those who are not here. These folks represent a broad professional community that we can call on and they can call on in case that bad day comes to our town. And I'm really honored to be part of that community of really dedicated professional public servants. Finally, I want to thank my staff. It's been almost exactly 8 years since I came back to the city of Minneapolis, and the good work that has happened has happened because I have a great staff. They work hard, they believe, they've put their shoulders to the wheel, and they've made it happen. And nothing that we've accomplished would have been accomplished without their support throughout these years. So with that, Madam Chair, I thank you. It's an honor to be able to serve in this capacity. I look forward to continuing to be able to serve, and I look forward to partnering with you and the mayor as we make the city more resilient and more prepared. So I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And I see we have been joined by our Mayor, Jacob Fry. So if you would like to share some comments, you're welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kano, honored to be here today. Thank you, committee leaders, for having me. I'm proud to join you all to speak in support of the reappointment of Barrett Lane as the Director in the Office of Emergency Management and Preparedness. Mr. Lane does a whole lot with a fairly small team and also does a lot of work that few of us get the chance to really see. When there were issues like the encampment, the navigation center, or the Drake fire, we had conference calls every single morning at 8 a.m. Where Barrett would lead a team through a critical response. And that sort of coordination is so necessary, especially when you've got an enterprise as complex as the city of Minneapolis and you're working with as many jurisdictions as we were. His work isn't just about the challenge or crisis of the moment. What they are planning for are these what-if circumstances. What if something happens that we may not anticipate without digging in deep? And so that kind of work, whether it's transportation or weather, floods, tornadoes, lightning, and the unimaginable, that is how they're able to help get us through those difficult circumstances that I have mentioned. In government, our jobs are often difficult, and oftentimes they are thankless and go unnoticed, but I want to make sure that we lift up some of Barrett's work in this instance, and so I'm proud to put him forward. Thank you all for the time, and I do ask for your support.
Thank you, Mayor. We have Councilmember Palmisano in queue, followed by Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. One of the great things about living in Minneapolis is that we don't have many disasters, unlike other cities like in Tornado Alley or in hurricane zones. And so you'd think our director of emergency management would be kind of like the Maytag repairman, right? Sitting around waiting for something, but he's not. Instead of being like the Maytag repairman who waits for a call, our emergency manager is taking the lead. He's proactively working to get the city achieving national accreditation. And it's not just about disaster recovery, but it's about continuity of services and preparedness, a solid continuity of operations plan for the small challenges that inevitably arrive, whether it's a power outage, and how we would provide for citizens if we lose power for a few days as a city, or coming out to neighborhood meetings and discussing some of the complexities and just neighborhood concerns over things like large construction projects. When a disaster does strike, like the Drake fire, Director Lane cancels vacations. He works long hours to ensure partners like the Red Cross are fully supported in their key operations. Large-scale planned events in our city benefit from his foresight as well. Barrett is a predecessor of mine on the council and my own former council member. I see that gives him a perspective of what a lot of direct community input and feedback looks like when things go wrong, or when they go big, like the Super Bowl, or when there's an epidemic threat. And that's a really nice benefit to the public for our director to have that really personal perspective. It makes him particularly effective at communicating across the city when called upon or when we call him. So I'm also a former disaster recovery and business continuity worker in the private sector, and I assure you, we couldn't be more fortunate to have someone with Barrett's professional qualifications, but on a personal level, his softer skills and attributes as shown by his leadership with the Boy Scouts, his practical, resourceful leadership, and special care of so many youth in our community, and his daily commitment and sincere enthusiasm for this work. These are the things that I think make him truly special to this role, and I'm grateful that he wishes to continue. So if it's all right with you, I'd like to move this motion.
We will do that shortly after we close the public hearing, which I'll do right now. So thank you, everyone who came to testify. We will close the public hearing, and they're moving on to the comments from our elected officials now. And Councilmember Fletcher, if you'd like to comment before we vote on Councilmember Linnea Palmisano's motion.
Thank you, Chair Kano. Councilmember Palmisano said it very well, so I'll just echo. I appreciate the continued growth in this department and in our capacity. I think we all sleep better knowing that there's a plan for how we communicate, how we make decisions, how we maintain continuity if something happens, and hope we never use most of the plans that you're making. But thank you for the work that you're doing and for continuing to improve our systems to coordinate better with with other agencies and keep us in good shape when we do need you. Thank you.
I will note that we did get many wonderful letters in support of your reappointment that speak volumes of the sector and the respect that you hold within that industry. So I really personally appreciated reading all of those letters and made sure to forward them to Ken, to our city clerk, to ensure that they're part of the public record. And as you are that steady hand that makes sure that we are ready to go in those moments of deep pressure and deep leadership, I just wanted to personally thank you for your public service to the city of Minneapolis and to our residents. And the National League of Cities is actually having a big workshop on emergency preparedness and management of moments of crisis. So I look forward to, I signed up thinking I want to come back and reconnect with you on the things that I learned there to see how we can better use this committee to really lift up the work that you're doing and really share in that learning as an enterprise. So without further comments, Councilmember Palmisano has made a motion that our committee approve the reappointment by the Executive Committee of Mr. Barrett Lane to the appointed position of Director of Emergency Management for a 2-year term beginning January 2nd, 2020. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And that motion carries. So thank you. That moves forward to our City Council meeting. And now we shall go ahead and move on to our discussion item, which is item number 7 on the agenda, and it is a brief presentation by the Minneapolis Police Department in regards to the Lights On program. So if we could have one of our participants here just go ahead and join us at the microphone and walk us through the initiative and invite anybody who you think would help us understand the program.
Good morning, Madam Chair and committee members. I'm Commander Charlie Adams with the Procedural Justice Unit. We're going to talk about the Lights On program so you can have a little bit more information about what the program is about. So I'm going to have former council member come up and speak to you about it. Then Sherman Patterson also is going to speak to it because he's actually the one that started the program when he was working for MPD. So.
Thank you, Commander Adams. Good morning, Madam Chair and my fellow council members. It's just great being here in this role after 3 terms on the council and 2 terms in your seat, Madam Chair, and living on the north side, which is the most policed precinct in our community, in our city. I think that gave me a connectivity to the issues related to policing and to community experiences that had everything to do with the starting of this program. And here with me today also is Sherman Patterson, and Sherman is former Mayor Ryback's public safety policy aide and Chief Harto's community engagement coordinator for a few years. And we are both working on this program, so this is a City Hall alumni program. and I think you'll get the vibe of that as we go into it. So we are aware of the tensions surrounding policing of late, and all the videos people have seen on the TV, and even the tensions here in our own city with the Jamar Clark thing and the Philando issues and so on. And we felt a need to address this in a holistic way that honors policing, honors the community, and solves the problem. And that's what the Lights On program does. And so what this does is, and you have several items in your hands there, there's a police brochure that we onboard police with, and that's the 8.5 by 11 type thing. Then you have a brochure, a flyer of the Lights On program itself, and of microgrants, the parent organization. And then, of course, the voucher. You have a voucher in your hand. You can see what the drivers actually get, and they turn those in to the service station, and then their lights replaced absolutely free. And that is whether or not it's just a light bulb that costs $10.25, or if it's a wiring problem up to $250, we will even fix that. And so we fix everything. And if it's over $250, we will contribute $250 to the repairs of that electrical problem. So it's a very generous program. You can imagine how excited everybody is. I'm going to show you a short video. We won the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits Innovation Award for 2019, and they make a video as a gift or a prize to the winner. And you'll see this Minneapolis resident and a Minneapolis police officer interacting.
I'm driving, and all of a sudden, lights go on behind me. I'm like, are you bleeping kidding me right now? It is Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. Do something else. And he's like, did you know that your lights, when the back was out? I was like, you gotta be kidding me right now. So I'm thinking I'm gonna get a ticket, that kind of stuff, and I'm not in the mood to deal with this, to be honest. He comes right back and he is like, everything checks out, Mr. Buckner, blah, blah, blah. Here's a voucher for this thing called Lights On.
Everybody expects, when we hand it to them, first question, is this a ticket? No, no.
Lights On was born out of a board meeting as we discussed the Philando Castile tragedy. It became clear that our transportation grants was an opportunity to help people to fix their cars by giving them a mini micro grant, right, in the form of a voucher.
In the past, when you'd issue citations or fix-it tickets, two things could happen. They'd get a citation which had a financial implication to it, but also took the citizen's time in getting the car fixed. Then the citizen would have to come back to either the police station, the precinct, or the agency that issued it, and another person would have to verify that these equipment violations were taken care of.
Officers would rather have an alternative and a way to end a traffic stop in a positive way.
And actually have a tool even more powerful than taser and gun for an officer to be able to say, hey man, your lights weren't on, here's a voucher, go fix it out, man.
The implementation process was so smooth. All we had to do really was just inform the officers that this is the alternative that they now have.
And we've not actually done any fundraising for Lights On. People hear about it, even second or third hand, and send money in to fund the program. And so when they hear of something so elegant, so simple, so economical, everything just kind of falls into place, and they wanted to participate in that.
Well, it's innovative because it hasn't been done before. This is something that, you see and your light goes on. You're like, how did we not think of this before?
If it were up to me, I would have the Lights On program go statewide. I believe that every department should implement this program as a way to better connect with the citizens and engage with them. Every piece helps in building those bridges and contacts with the communities.
Not only are a lot of police departments flooding to this program, but so are the mechanics. You don't get that type of participation, that type of enthusiasm, unless you have something that has some innovation, some drive, and that's what Lights On has.
Instead of dunning poor people, taking their cars away, impounding them, making them lose their jobs, now we have a restorative solution that actually does what the law wanted in the first place: fix the light, make the community safe, and leave everybody with a great taste in their mouth, and the community really more united. So that's basically that's the program, and I'll just add a little bit that Minneapolis led the way here in this region, and you know that Hennepin County just announced a couple of weeks ago that they were implementing Lights On. So now not only is the county, but the Park Board, the Metro Transit Police, the U of M Police are all on board, and Minneapolis has led the way. It is a rare rare collaboration between public sector, private sector, and the nonprofit sector. We actually have statewide now over 80 police departments in the state participating, and we have over 100 service providers participating. And they are equally enthusiastic. They get to give back to the community by repairing these bulbs and even get repeat business. So it's good for everybody. And of course, the drivers are just ecstatic. They, in fact, while they're getting their lights replaced, they fill out surveys. And they say things like, you know, I've been stopped 3 times and was rolling the dice for the 4th time, hoping I didn't get a ticket because I have 2 kids in high school and I'm low income. Or the cops are saying they get hugs, they get high fives, they get thanks, and really deep appreciation. So this is really having a very positive impact on the community and even the funding community. Last year, we got $170,000 from the Joyce Foundation out of Chicago that has funded initiatives here in the city. And for 2020, we now have about $1 million donated by a anonymous donor to expand nationwide. So I think Minneapolis can take great pride in knowing that this initiative was born out of the sensibilities of City Hall, brought into the marketplace. And it's a win-win-win concept, and it's a different way to deal with problems. And in fact, Rochester PD's, one of the Rochester civic leaders came over to me at the MCN Awards and said that they had stopped towing cars. They have a downtown alternate side parking, not related to snow. They'd stopped towing the cars that were broken down because they have this low-income immigrant population that does all the work down there. And now the mechanics in town got together and are offering reduced price repair work for those cars instead. So what we're hoping is that this will not just solve this problem, but will lead to a different kind of way of dealing with problems that can have a fairly easy solution rather than taking the easy solution, which might be more punitive. So we're happy to share this and proud to be a resident, former council member, and former employee of the city. Thanking Commander Adams, who championed this in the MPD. Thanking Chief Arredondo for making it a policy of the department now. And in fact, it's been increasing, the city has been increasing in its participation over the quarter. In the first quarter, there were 5 vouchers handed out. Second quarter, 23. Third quarter, 27. Fourth quarter, 39. And that was before the policy was implemented. So we anticipate that there's going to be incredible use. And you can imagine of the total 235 issued last year, those were 235 quality interactions that left the drivers feeling totally good about the MPD and about the city. They don't know who Lights On is. The police officers give this to them. They're grateful to the police officers. It's turning around, and those 235 people told probably 5 people in their lives about this. And they post these things on Facebook and online. And so the potential here to change the narrative and give the cops something else to do besides a taser and a gun and a stack of tickets. Now, they're doing this willingly because no police officer wants to walk up to a car, see a child in the back seat of a low-income driver, and then add to their burden. They tell us over and over again, we just hate to see that. So it's a wonderful opportunity for everyone, and we're glad to participate. Now, if you have any questions, I'll answer.
Yes, thank you for that explanation of the program. Did you guys want to add something before we bring questions?
Mr. Samuels covered most of it, but if there's any policy questions, that Chief Arundano, I'm here to answer them.
Yep, just hold on one second. So we'll start with Councilmember Andrea Jenkins, followed by Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't necessarily have policy questions. I do want to just acknowledge how grateful I am to see 2 former city council members in our chambers today that are still working hard to center the residents of Minneapolis, city of Minneapolis, and continuing to create public safety for our residents and opportunities for our city to grow. And so I just want to acknowledge and say thank you to former Councilmember Samuels and also to former Public Safety Member Sherman. You guys got the facial hair. I didn't quite recognize you initially, but glad to see you here in the City Hall chambers. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilmember Fletcher.
Thank you, Chair Cano. I have a couple of questions. One is there any kind of need-based screening? Like, should I drive around until I get pulled over so that it gets subsidized with a coupon? Or how are we deciding who gets these coupons and how the resources are directed?
It's gone. Basically, we're giving anybody a coupon that we see that there's lights out. So we're not, choosing what type of vehicle they're wearing. Now, if it's a Mercedes, then that's a different story. But our officers, it's a different story. But our officers, they can give coupons to anybody that deserve to get the coupon because their lights out. We also have the precinct hands out coupons. So if somebody gets, part of our policy, if a driver gets pulled over and the officer doesn't have a coupon, they will give them a blue card and tell them to go to the precinct and they can get a coupon. I personally and Chief Arundano, we keep coupons in our own personal squad cars. And I give out coupons when I see somebody needs it. I coach high school football. So I got 60 kids and probably 20 of them have cars. So I had 1 or 2 of my ball players who had their lights out. I issued them a coupon. They went down to Bobby and Steve's and were able to take care of it.
Yeah, that's about it. We kind of leave it up to the police department. We're a nonprofit, so we don't dictate policy. But it kind of varies. But the MPD does give it to everyone because you can't really tell who's going through a hard time. Somebody could be bought a used BMW for a couple of $1,000. So we just say give it to everyone. And some people have. One guy in a Benz showed up at a local shop and said, he said, no, I'm not here to get the light replaced. I just didn't believe this thing was for real, and I came to see. I'll pay for my own light bulb. So we try not to guess. Yeah.
I appreciate that, but you just said it was a different story if someone's in a Mercedes, and I just want to make sure I understand. Is this at the officer's discretion about whether they use this tool or not? And so the officer is making a judgment about whether this is a beneficial tool to a particular person they're pulling over?
I think former councilman answered that question. Our officers can give a coupon out to anybody, and I think I stated that. The Mercedes story was basically what Don told you. Right. He came up to Bobby and Steve's, and they thought, oh, my God, this is a brand-new Mercedes. This guy's got a coupon. But like he said, he wanted to see if this is a real program, and he thanked us for it. So,
thank you. And then my other question is, I'm just trying to understand. So you're using rhetoric that says we want to give them a tool besides a taser and a gun. But I'm trying to understand how this tool, which comes in at the very end of the interaction, takes the taser and the gun out of the interaction or does much to solve the problem that the community kind of raised. Because the truth is, African Americans are 6 times more likely to get stopped for equipment violations and 4 times more likely to get searched when that stop does happen. And so people are feeling sort of harassed. People are feeling exposed to a level of escalation that's potential when they get stopped. And then at the end, we give them a coupon, which is great if none of the other things that happened, like a search and an arrest or other escalations happen. But I'm feeling some confusion about how this diminishes that.
Yeah, well, one of the things that the chiefs have pretty much agreed across the board is if you're giving a coupon, don't give a lecture and don't give a ticket. And so the cop is coming up purely to give a coupon, and it's an unadulterated gesture of generosity. And so, you know, it's all positive. Yeah.
And so in our interactions where first of all, when you pull somebody over, and even in the video, Mr. Buckner sort of testified, you know, you get that sinking feeling in your stomach, you know, and then are we, if we're planning to give the coupon, we're not going to escalate to search, we're not looking in the car to see if we see something that we think might be worth looking at? I mean, are these not pretexts then also for other kinds of interactions? Because we do a lot of pretext stops right now. I mean, that's one of the
we do. So I mean, based on
we've been having.
Stop, if it's a traffic stop and they're basing it on like they're trying to get their probable cause to make that stop, and they take it further, maybe they have some information. I don't know. But this whole coupon thing, me being a young black man growing up in North Minneapolis, mother on welfare, I'm trying to make it to school with this piece of crap a car I got. If an officer pulled me over and gave me a ticket for my light out, I would be appreciative, because that's a pretty expensive deal. I don't know if you changed the light on your car. I had to do my son's car. I had to take the whole bumper off and fender, and that's kind of expensive. So if we can help help young people out, people who are poor, help them out that way, then I think it makes me feel good as a police officer. It makes me feel good that my officers are doing it, and that's what we're trying to do, engage.
Yep. So I appreciate that, and this is a good program, and it solves one of the problems that community has identified. I'm also just naming, because we're over a year past when we asked for a traffic study to look at those pretext stops and to look at some of the other issues, that coming to this committee with a solution to a narrow piece of it, which it is, and it is a solution, and it's good, and it is going to help people, feels incomplete. And I'm still very interested in seeing the traffic enforcement report and seeing what's going to be our strategy to eliminate racial inequities in the way that we're using traffic enforcement as a tool and the way that we're using pretext stops. So I want to, we can separate those things a little bit and be grateful for the work that this organization is doing and for the improvement that this makes to the interactions that we are currently having. But I feel like I'd be remiss, given the conversations of the last year and a half, in not naming that this is happening in an absence of response to a lot of the other issues that community has come in here and raised.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And all I can do is basically take that back to Chief Arendano and tell him about your concerns. But our program is geared to deal with folks who need it, and that's what my focus is.
If I may, Madam Chair, we have two pieces of research taking place at the same time. The Wilder Foundation was also funded by the Joyce Foundation significantly to do a research partnering with our work to see the impact of this program on drivers and on police. And simultaneously, when you're getting your light replaced, you get also a form to fill out, which is in the form of a survey, multiple choice, and then a little narrative opportunity to put a narrative of the experience. And so we've been collecting those for 2 years, and we've given out over 1,300. We've repaired over 1,300 lights across the state so far, and so we're tabulating that research, and MPD and everybody's going to have access to that to see if attitudes are shifting. I can tell you right now that we haven't had any complaints, and the only people who are a little bit tepid about it are the people who say, I would have fixed my light anyway. But otherwise, it's really all good. So I'm looking forward to being able to share those results with you in the future.
Thank you so much for that. I'm not seeing any more questions or comments from the committee. I want to thank you all for taking the time to come and share more information about this effort. I think it's going to be very helpful, and you probably have the data that shows that it is helpful to low-income communities, immigrant community members. So I appreciate the introduction of that constructive tool to engage both our community members who are driving out on the road and who need to have safe cars that have their lights on to avoid escalation of future problems, and working with them in partnership and constructive partnership with our Minneapolis Police Department. I do just have one kind of question, which I heard in the video was relating to growing the program statewide. Do you have plans to do that? How hard, how easy would it be? Do you have like maybe a projected budget? Are you going to go around the state and do a tour to engage all the police departments?
Yeah.
How viable is that?
Well, we've attended the Minnesota Sheriff's Association annual meeting, and we've attended the state police chiefs annual meeting. We're going to attend that again this year. And believe me, you go to one of these things and the phone is ringing off the hook for a few weeks after that. And so it's a program that sells itself. And once you have a chief of St. Paul, Minneapolis, Hennepin counties, sheriff, and so on board, everybody else is falling in line. And in fact, Sherman Patterson is going outstate, in outstate areas, Bemidji, driving back and forth daily to onboard new police departments. And we're confident. It's not a matter of the demand. It's just a matter of how much time this guy has to go all over. And we're confident that by the fall of this year, we will have the entire state on board with this program. Yeah.
Madam Chair, one more thing. When we are with the departments, we're ensuring that we look at the demographics and we ask for, we get 2 other languages besides English. If it's Somali, Latino, Russian, etc., to make sure when they're giving out the voucher that they understand what's going on. Mm-hmm. So we really put a lot of thought into that.
Yeah, so the back of your vouchers, I think, has 2 languages on it, and that's 2 out of, I think, 6 that we provide. Mm-hmm. And the chief, the department selects what 2 languages to be there, besides English.
I noticed that. Thank you. That was really great. I was reading it in Spanish. So I appreciate that, because I think in some of the more rural towns and areas of our city, this might have a deeper impact, because those departments might not have the resources that we have to do the cultural relevant trainings and the addressing the biases within individuals and policing departments. So I could see that going a longer way in those areas that have less support to reform their policing systems. So thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. And we're hoping that this will help elevate this program and spread the word about it and get other people to really keep their eyes out on this as a resource for our...
I hope you'll let us come back in about a year and give you a report on the findings of the research.
Beautiful. Let's stay in touch about it.
Great.
Thank you. All right, so I'm not seeing any more questions or comments from our committee here, so we will go ahead and receive and file this overview presentation of the police department's participation in the Lights On program. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye, and that item moves forward. Without further business before us, we are adjourned.